Back to another episode of GP Pod. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Zulkarnain Ahmed. I'm a GP trainer, partner and coach, and in this video we'll be discussing some lessons which I've learned over the years as international medical graduate. As I said earlier, I'm an international medical graduate originally from Pakistan. I came to UK back in 2008 and I started working as a foundation year doctor back in 2010, and then I completed my foundation year training. Then I went into GP training and I had my ups and downs over the years, and we will talk about my struggles particularly during GP training and what lessons I've learned. But these are some of those lessons which I'd like to share, which hopefully will benefit a lot of people who come from background similar to myself. So the first lesson which I learned from my experience was communication is the key. And if there's one thing which you're going to take from this video is the communication. And when I talk about communication, I mean English language, writing, reading, speaking, listening. All of those things are really important. But I think in addition to that, I would put a lot more emphasis on listening and speaking, because those are the two mediums you're going to need if you want to be successful. And those are the two areas you want to be really focusing on, especially in the beginning. And sadly, we see all the time, particularly with international medical graduates and sometimes people who are really who have been in this country for a really long period of time, they haven't really worked on those skills, and you can tell straight away that whether someone has worked on those skills or not. So now the question really is, how do you improve the communication? So let's come to speaking and listening. First of all, like I said, those are the two important ones. So talk to your friends and family. I know it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard, especially in the beginning, and it's so easy and tempting just to revert back to your original language. But trust me, if you start talking to your friends and family and try not to be shy, try not to make mistakes, don't worry too much about making mistakes, you will learn quickly. And language, obviously, as you know, you can only learn by doing. So speaking, you're only going to learn by speaking. There's nothing else that which you can do for that. And they all go hand in hand. Speaking and listening, they kind of mirror each other. So if you're able to speak better in a more coherent and accurate manner, then you will mirror those things in your listening as well. So what are the other things which you can do to improve your listening and speaking? Listen to radio. Radio 5 Live usually is a quite good source, and you can listen to any other particular radio program as well, but I like particular BBC Radio 5 Live, especially when I'm out and about, because you can listen to news and what's going on during the day as well, and it gives you kind of a good grasp in the language as well. You can listen to different podcasts like this, YouTube channels like this are also another good source where you can listen to people, and so that you fine-tune your ears with regards to certain words, certain letters, so that you can register them when you're talking to your patients. So that's another good source. In addition to that, to improve your reading skills, you can read different blogs, be it scientific, be it fiction, be it newspapers, and just by reading those you will familiarize yourself with the language. Although I don't see it as a big problem, because generally speaking, most of the doctors who come from international medical background, they are well versed in reading English, and even to an extent speaking as well, but the accent is usually slightly different. So make sure you try and work on your accent as well. I've met people who have been in this country 20, 30 or 40 odd years, and no disrespect to them, but when you listen to them or when you talk to them, it sounds like they just come yesterday. My opinion, that's in this day and age, that's not good enough. We need to work on our accent, and when people come to us, they know exactly what we're talking to them about, and they don't have any particular difficulty. And that would obviously help and increase our prospects of job satisfaction as well as promotion and our personal development as well. So So that's really important. And the other thing which you can do is use the technology. If you don't have many people who you can speak to, you can just record yourself. You can record yourself on a camera, on a phone, or whatever that might be, and then you can listen yourself. You can pick your mistakes. You know where to improve on, and that's usually a good source of sort of personal feedback if you don't have many people who you can speak to. So that's a good alternative. Let me know how you get on with that, if you like that suggestion. The second thing which is really important in communication is the body language. And some people say as much as body language is 80 to 90% of the communication. And it's there for a good reason. And we need to understand the body language. So when we're speaking to the patient, be mindful of that. So for example, if you're talking to a patient, don't be sort of really close to them. Don't invade their personal space, which is very uncomfortable if that something happens to you. So you need to be mindful of that. You need to be mindful of when someone's saying yes, I know, or nodding. Are they happy? Are they sad? Pick up on the cues when you're talking to them as well. All of these things are really important part of communication. Eye contact is another important one. When you're talking to people, make sure you have a good eye contact with them. You also need to have what we call open body language, i.e. You should be facing them. You should have full attention towards the patient or the person you're speaking to, and you shouldn't be crossing your legs, or you shouldn't be crossing your hands like this or like that, or you shouldn't be sat behind like this. You shouldn't be talking to someone, for example, if I start talking to someone like that on the side, it's really sort of not good manners, it's quite disrespectful. But if I've got somebody in front of me, this is how I'd be talking to them as well. So I'm looking at them straight into their eyes, and I have my full attention, and my hands can rest either on my knees or on wherever they are comfortable. So just in a normal sort of neutral position, which is the best for communication. And the next thing which I would say to somebody who's just come from abroad is to embrace the culture and embrace the culture of the NHS. And when I'm talking about the culture, I'm talking about in particular how the health system works here, how the NHS works here. Where do we stand as primary care clinicians? We are usually the first port of call for most of our, well, all of our patients really. So whenever they have any issue, any problem, they'll come to us first. And also, I think it's really important to emphasize and point out at this point that we come from various different backgrounds, and although things are changing all over the world as well, but I think still from countries like Pakistan, or India, or Bangladesh, or any other countries, there is still a hierarchy when you're talking to patients, and doctor is the sort of, in some cases, be all end all, which is not the case here really. So be mindful of that. You're not in charge. We as doctors are not in charge. Patients are in charge of their own health. We are just, our role is just to facilitate and help and support the decision making and best in the best way possible as much as we can. And that's slightly different from our role which we might be used to back home. So it's not like a child-parent relationship in which you can tell the child what to do and how to do. We are in a different relationship, and we need to be mindful of that. And in my experience, usually most of the complaints which come from, they usually stem from communication, or rather miscommunication, and it's usually due to the people not really able to emphasize their point, don't understand the culture fully, and they say something which is not appropriate, or they make a decision about someone which is not appropriate, so that can lead to problems. So be mindful of that. Now there's also another point here which I'd like to make. Most of us, and doctors in particular, we're generally used to being the best, be in our class or in our peers, wherever we come from, and usually we are used to that, but we need to be able to be okay with not being the best or not being at the top, because whenever you come here to the UK or any different country for that matter, there is so much more new that which we need to know and which we need to learn, and that slows us down, and we're usually not the best. We're usually not at the top of our game. We can be with the hard work and with the dedication. However, usually at the start and in the beginning, we're not the best, and we need to be okay with that. And some people can take this negatively, and it can affect their confidence and it can affect their self-esteem. So don't let that affect your self-esteem. Your progress is going to be slow, or perhaps rather a bit slower than your peers. Be okay with that. No problem with that. If people are learning something in 6 months, it might take you 7 months or 8 months. By long scheme, I think it doesn't really matter. And so be okay with that. And if you need any help or any support, be at home, be at work, if you're struggling with something, ask for help. There are people who can help and support. So be okay with asking for help as well. So my next point is particularly for GP trainees who come from abroad as international medical graduates. So my advice to them would be have a good relationship with your trainer. If you have a good relationship with your trainer, that can work hugely in your favor. And the way to develop a good relationship is to be respectful, to be mindful of them, and do what's necessary of you in terms of your training. So for example, if it's a portfolio, make sure you work on your portfolio. If it's a task, a particular task which you're supposed to do, make sure you do that task. If it's an audit or something like that which you're supposed to do, make sure you do that on time. If they're giving you any particular task, or for example a guideline or a presentation to do, make sure you do that. And if you do all of those things, you will slowly develop a rapport and develop a relationship, and that can, like I said, can help hugely. I had a very good relationship with my trainers, and that has helped me immensely over the years, and I still learn from them, and so that is really important. Just like any other relationships are based on respect and trust. Those are the two really important keys. So be respectful and be trustworthy, and be authentic as well. Don't try and sort of be somebody who you're not. Just trying to be authentic, trying to be yourself, try and do your best. As long as you do your best, that will probably be sufficient. So basically, present the best version of yourself all the time, or most of the time, as much as you can. Now, another important point here is to listen to their critique and advice. What I see, especially from my own personal experience when I was a trainee and now my personal experience as a trainer, is that sometimes trainees, a GP trainee, don't particularly take the advice which are given to them due to various reasons. Sometimes they think, oh, that trainer, our particular trainer doesn't like me, or that particular sort of trainer has got this issue and that issue, and they have sort of these notions about certain personalities and things. Don't try and sort of read too much into that. Try your best, do what you can, and as long as you do what the time necessitates of you, you'll be okay. And preconceived ideas. So for example, I hear this all the time, and I personally experienced this myself as well when I was a trainee, that all these exams, for example RCGP, and it was the CSA exam at the time, which is obviously the RCA right now at the moment, and we don't know what shape it'll take in future. That is quite unfair for international medical graduates. So it is what it is. We just have to deal with it, and that just means that you have to be working extra hard. You have to be more careful with what you say and how you say, and as long as you work on those things, it can be done. And if people like myself and other people who have done it, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. It's just a matter of time. But I think the important thing is have a positive mindset and don't approach things with a negative mindset, because that's never going to take you anywhere. So the next and important point is be okay to be a trainee again. I know some of you may be very experienced doctors, and you might have worked in your countries for many years, but whenever you come to this country or a different country, a new place, you need to start all over again. And some of that might not be clinical. It might be more language. It might be more sort of how you talk to patients and things like that. But be okay with being a trainee again, or being a medical student again. So sitting in the corner, taking notes, learning what needs to be done. And as long as you, like I said, you try that and you try your best, you'll be okay. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to try new things. And as long as you try them, like I said, you'll probably be okay. There's a famous saying that if you aren't willing to look like a foolish beginner, you will never be a graceful master. Basically, if you're not willing to make any mistakes, then you're not going to become an expert. So be okay with making mistakes and learning again. So another part of advice, particularly for GP trainees again, that familiarize yourself with the GP curriculum. It's available online. You can get condensed curriculum copies as well if you prefer to read it. But familiarize yourself with that. Familiarize yourself with the 13 capabilities and what's required of you as a GP trainee. I'm going to hopefully make another video about how to use GP curriculum to your advantage. So if you want me to make that video, please let me know in the comments below. But yeah, get yourself familiarized with the GP curriculum. It's an important document which can really help your GP training journey. And last but not the least, the important point is the motivation. Know your why. Why are you here? Why do you want to be a GP training, for that matter, doctor in the UK? Why do you want to train here? And as long as you got a strong reason, a strong why, then you'll be successful. And here I would like to point out a particular strategy by Stephen Covey, who's the author of, the famous author of the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey talks about the circle of influence and circle of concern. So the circle of concern is like a bigger circle, in which will include everything which I'm concerned about, which, for example, there might be what's going on in the world right now, and what's happening in a particular country, in a country of my birth, what's going on with the economy. All of those things can be in that sort of bigger circle of concern. But then there'll be a smaller circle inside that, which is called the circle of influence, in that circle I have full control over what's in that circle. So for example, my training, it might be the exams, it might be a particular job that I want, it might be a particular language that I want to learn, but I have direct control over that. So if it's the exam, I can prepare for those exams. If it's this big circle of concern, there are things, so I can't change the world politics, I can't change what's going on in a particular country or the economy. However, I can change what I need to do for that particular training, what I need to do for the AKT, what I need to do for the RCA, what I need to do to get myself better in the communication. So we need to put our energies into the right place. So although we might be concerned about all of those things, but we can't do anything about them, but the things which we've got in our circle of influence we have control over, and we need to be focusing more on that, and we're putting more energy on that. So that was in today's episode. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Share it with friends or people who you think could benefit from, and I'll see you in the next video. Up until then, bye bye.